Jesus said to the crowds, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which someone has found. He hides it again, goes off happy, sells everything he owns and buys the field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he finds one of great value, he goes and sells everything he owns and buys it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet cast into the sea, that brings in a haul of all kinds. When it is full, the fishermen haul it ashore. Then, sitting down, they collect the good ones in a basket, and throw away those that are of no use. This is how it will be at the end of time. The angels will appear, and separate the wicked from the just, to throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and grinding of teeth." "Have you understood all this?" They said, "Yes." And he said to them, "Well then, every scribe who becomes a disciple of the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out from his storeroom things both new and old."
In my Liverpool home, in my Liverpool home, we speak with an accent exceedingly rare, meet under a statue exceedingly bare, and if you want a cathedral, we've got one to spare, in my Liverpool home. When does something stop being new? I grew up just across the river Mersey from Liverpool, and I'd often be taken into the city. Sometimes when we're there, we'd visit one of the cathedrals, of which there are two. As a child, I'd differentiate between them, calling them the old and the new. The old was officially the Cathedral of Christ in Liverpool, just referred to by many as the Anglican Cathedral. The new was the Metropolitan Cathedral of Christ the King, often just referred to as Paddy's Wigwam, the Catholic Cathedral. The old cathedral was ancient, at least it looked it to me. It was solid, it was traditional, it looked as if it had always been there. But it hadn't. The old cathedral wasn't finally opened until 1978. Well, that's not strictly true. My dad used to sing in the choir there in the 30s and the 40s. Paul McCartney would have sung in the choir if he'd passed his audition in the 50s, which he didn't. But he supported it. He's been back for concerts. It was started in 1904, and although some of it started to be used in 1910, it wasn't finally finished and opened formally until 1978. Paddy's Wigwam, on the other hand, well, it looks new. It's made of concrete. It was started in 1962 and was finished 5 years later and opened in 1967. I suppose that makes it older than the old cathedral, since it was opened 10 years before the old cathedral was even finished. The old cathedral is traditional. Inside, it has a long central nave. It's very ornate, very solid. The new cathedral, on the other hand, well, the pews are arranged in a curve right round a central altar, and the thing that strikes you as soon as you walk in is the light. Light pours through coloured glass high in a tower above the central altar. I like them both. There's a sense of quiet and calm and peacefulness, a sense of security in both. But the atmosphere is different. Similar, but different. The nature of the building, the nature of what happens there, the light, the sound, all makes them feel just a little different one from the other. So when does something stop being new? After a certain length of time? When something newer comes along? Or is it when it's no longer cutting edge? When it no longer reflects the values of present day society? Is that when it's old? The gospel that we listened to this morning ends with that enigmatic phrase of Jesus. Every scribe who becomes a disciple of the kingdom of heaven is like a householder who brings out from his storeroom things both new and old. But what does Matthew mean when he talks about things both new and old? The most obvious interpretation of it, I think, is that old refers to the Old Testament, the Hebrew Scriptures. And new refers to Christ's new interpretation of those Scriptures, the new understanding he brings to them. Maybe there's value in it, but maybe there's more to it than that. I think there has to be more to it than that. Perhaps a bolder interpretation is to say that the old is everything that has been written down and handed on to us, including Matthew's gospel itself. The new is how we continue to interpret the scriptures in the light of our age, in the needs of our society, in our world. They say if you want to know how well you understand something, try teaching it. Maybe there's something of that in that phrase too. If you want to know how well you understand the teachings of faith that have been handed on to you, you have to try living them. To be an authentic Christian, we need to both understand the faith that's been handed on to us and practice that faith and live it out. Maybe the old is everything that's gone before this moment. And the new is how we live things out in this moment. When does something stop being new? When we stop living it. When it is no longer our present, but part of our past. Although it's no longer new, it still has much to inform us. It still continues to shape the new, to shape the now. That, I think, is what Matthew meant when he says, the true disciple of the kingdom is like someone who brings out things both new and old. Our true discipleship is to be found in our effort to understand how people have lived out their relationship with God in the past, and allow it to inform us as we try to live out that same living relationship with God here and now, each moment of our lives.